The marriage contract that ended everything. The security camera footage waiting on my laptop when I got home showed my wife having sex with another man. In our bed, using the toys I'd bought her for our anniversary. But that's not even the worst part of this story. The worst part is what she handed me 30 minutes later when she walked through the door like nothing had happened. A typed contract titled New Marriage Terms with 25 rules governing when, how, and if I'd ever be allowed to touch her again. If you're into honest stories about relationships, trust, and betrayal, hit that follow button. You won't want to miss the next one. Let me back up and explain how I ended up in this nightmare. My wife, Emma, and I had been married for 6 years. Things weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid. We owned a house together, had decent jobs, talked about kids, normal married couple stuff. Then 3 months ago, Emma started acting different. She joined this women's empowerment group at work, started reading books about reclaiming feminine power, began questioning everything about our relationship dynamic. "I've been doing some research," she announced one evening, sitting across from me at dinner. "I think I've been giving away too much of myself in this marriage." "What do you mean?" "Sexually, emotionally, I've been too available, too accommodating. It's not healthy for either of us." I set down my fork. "Emma, what are you talking about? We have a good relationship." "Do we? Or do I just go along with whatever you want to keep the peace?" This caught me off guard. Sure, we'd settled into routines over the years, but I'd never felt like I was demanding or controlling. If anything, I'd always tried to be considerate of her needs. "Can you give me an example?" "Sex," she said bluntly. "You initiate whenever you want, and I just comply. That's not empowering. That's not equality." "Emma, you can say no anytime, you know that." But the expectation is always there. The pressure. I need space to rediscover my own desires instead of just responding to yours. I tried to understand. Maybe she had a point about us falling into patterns. "Okay, what do you want to do about it?" "I want to take control of our intimate life, completely, for a while." "What does that mean?" "It means no more spontaneous sex. No more you just deciding you're in the mood and expecting me to be available. I want to be the one who initiates when I want, how I want." It wasn't what I'd hoped to hear, but I love my wife. If she needed this to feel more empowered in our relationship, I could try to understand. "Okay," I said, "we can try that." Her eyes lit up. "Really? Really, just be patient with me while I adjust." That conversation happened on a Tuesday. By Saturday, I was starting to regret my agreement. Emma's idea of taking control meant no physical intimacy at all. No sex, no cuddling, barely even hand-holding. When I'd try to kiss her goodnight, she'd turn her cheek to me. "I need to reset my relationship with physical touch," she explained. "I can't have you influencing my natural desires with your expectations." "How long is this reset supposed to last?" "As long as it takes for me to reconnect with my authentic self." Weeks passed. Our bedroom became a cold, sterile space. We slept on opposite sides of the bed like strangers. Emma seemed happier, though, more confident. She started going out more with her empowerment group friends, staying out later. "It's working," she told me after a month. "I feel more like myself than I have in years." "That's great," I said, though I felt increasingly disconnected from her. "When do you think things might balance out again?" "Soon," she said. "I'm actually ready to start exploring intimacy again, but on my terms." I was relieved. A month of celibacy had been difficult, but if it helped her feel more empowered, it was worth it. What I didn't know was that while she was resetting with me, she was exploring her newfound empowerment with someone else. The discovery happened by accident. I'd installed security cameras around our house 6 months earlier after a break-in in our neighborhood. The footage was stored on our home computer, automatically deleted after 30 days unless saved. I was looking for footage from the previous week when our neighbor's cat had gotten into our yard, and I noticed a file from 3 days ago that had been manually saved. Curious, I clicked on it. The timestamp showed 2:15 p.m. on a Wednesday when I was at work. The camera angle covered our bedroom window, and I could clearly see 2 figures inside. My wife, Emma, and a man I recognized as Jake, one of the guys from her empowerment group who she'd mentioned several times. They weren't just talking. I sat frozen, watching my wife be more passionate and active than she'd been with me in months. Maybe years. She was doing things, saying things, being things that she'd never been in our bedroom. The footage lasted 47 minutes. I checked the other saved files. There were dozens of them over the past 6 weeks. Different days, different times, but always when I was at work. Always the same man. My hands were shaking as I closed the laptop. Emma wouldn't be home for another hour. I had time to think, to process, to decide what to do. But I didn't need time. Seeing that footage crystallized everything that had been wrong with our marriage lately. The sudden need for space, the empowerment rhetoric, the complete shutdown of our physical relationship. She hadn't been rediscovering herself. She'd been discovering someone else. I was still sitting at my desk when Emma came home, walking in with that same confident energy she'd been radiating for weeks. "How was your day?" "In no way to roar," she asked, leaning down to kiss the top of my head like nothing was wrong. "Interesting," I said. "I learned some things." "Oh? Like what?" I turned to face her. "Like what you do on Wednesday afternoons when I'm at work." The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. "I don't know what you mean." "The security cameras, Emma. I saw everything." She stared at me for a long moment, and I watched her mentally cycling through possible responses. Denial, gaslighting, anger. Instead, she surprised me. "Okay," she said, straightening up. "Yes, I've been seeing Jake." "For how long?" 2 months, while telling me you needed space to rediscover your authentic self. I was being authentic, for the first time in years. I couldn't believe her audacity. "You were cheating on me." I was exploring who I am without the constraints of this relationship. Jake helped me understand what I'd been missing. What you'd been missing: passion, real desire. Not the obligatory intimacy we'd fallen into. I stood up, anger starting to build. "Obligatory? Emma, you're the one who shut down our sex life entirely. Because I needed to understand what I actually wanted instead of just giving you what you expected. And what you wanted was another man. What I wanted was to feel desired for who I really am, not who I'd trained myself to be for you." The twisted logic was making my head spin. She'd cheated on me and was somehow making it about self-discovery and empowerment. "So what now?" I asked. "Do you want a divorce?" "Actually," she said, reaching into her purse, "I have a different proposal." She handed me a folder. Inside was a typed document, professionally formatted with legal-looking language. Marriage reconstruction agreement was printed across the top. "What is this?" "New terms for our marriage, based on what I've learned about myself and what I need to be fulfilled." I started reading, and with each line my anger transformed into something colder. The document outlined a modern marriage structure where Emma would have complete autonomy over her body, her time, and her relationships, including the right to maintain intimate friendships outside our marriage. In return, I would continue to provide financial stability, household maintenance, and emotional support when requested. Section 12 was particularly detailed about our revised intimacy structure. Emma would determine all aspects of our physical relationship: frequency, timing, activities, everything. I would not initiate, request, or expect anything. Section 18 gave her relationship autonomy, meaning she could see other people as long as it didn't negatively impact our household stability. Section 23 required me to attend monthly counseling sessions to work through possessive and controlling tendencies. "You can't be serious," I said, looking up from the document. "I'm completely serious. This is what a healthy, evolved marriage looks like, not the patriarchal ownership model we were operating under." "Emma, this isn't a marriage. This is you having your cake and eating it too. It's me being honest about my needs instead of pretending to be satisfied with a relationship that was stifling my growth." I flipped through more sections. Financial arrangements that gave her access to all our accounts while requiring my income to maintain our lifestyle. Social clauses that let her go out whenever she wanted while expecting me to be available when she needed support. What exactly do I get out of this arrangement? You get to stay married to me. You get the stability of our relationship without the pressure of trying to be my everything. And you get to fuck other men while I pay the bills. Her face hardened. That's a very crude way to describe it, but accurate. Jake fulfills needs that you can't. This arrangement lets us both be honest about that. I set the document down. And if I don't agree to this, then we get divorced. You lose half of everything anyway, plus alimony. This way, we can both get what we need. The audacity was breathtaking. She'd been cheating for months, and now she was presenting it as an evolution of our marriage that I should be grateful for. I need time to think about this, of course, but don't take too long. Jake and I are planning a weekend trip next month, and I'd like this settled before then. That night, Emma slept in our bed while I took the couch, not because she'd asked me to, but because I couldn't stand to be near her. I spent hours reading through her agreement, and with each section, I understood more clearly what had happened to my marriage. This wasn't about empowerment or self-discovery. This was about her wanting to have an affair without consequences. She'd found someone who excited her more than I did, and instead of ending our marriage honestly, she'd crafted this elaborate justification for having both. The empowerment group, the books, the rhetoric about authentic self. It was all framework to rationalize what she wanted to do anyway. But as I read deeper into the document, I realized Emma had made a crucial mistake. Section 31 stated that all terms of the agreement applied equally to both parties, unless specifically noted otherwise. Section 47 outlined the termination clause. Either party could dissolve the agreement with 30 days written notice, and Section 52 included a reciprocity provision. Any freedoms granted to one spouse were automatically available to the other spouse under the same terms. Emma had been so focused on legitimizing her affair that she'd inadvertently created a document that gave me the same rights she was claiming. The next morning, I made breakfast while Emma got ready for work. She seemed pleased that I was functioning normally, taking it as a sign that I was accepting the new reality. "Have you had time to think about the agreement?" she asked as she grabbed her coffee. "I have, and I've made a decision." Her eyes lit up. "Really? I'll sign it, but with a few additions." Her expression became cautious. "What kind of additions?" "Well, Section 52 says any freedoms granted to one spouse apply to both spouses. So if you have relationship autonomy, so do I." That's not what that means. It's exactly what it means. If you can see Jake, I can see other people too. But you don't want to see other people. How do you know what I want? Maybe I've been stifling my own authentic desires to maintain our relationship. She set down her coffee mug. "This isn't about you exploring other relationships." "Why not? If it's healthy for you, shouldn't it be healthy for me too?" "It's different." "How?" Because I'm the one who wasn't getting my needs met in our marriage. You were satisfied with the status quo. Was I? Or was I just better at hiding my dissatisfaction? This clearly wasn't the conversation she'd expected. She'd assumed I'd either accept her terms or reject them entirely. She hadn't considered that I might turn her own logic against her. "Marcus, let's be reasonable here." "I am being reasonable. I'm agreeing to your marriage structure. All of it, including the parts that benefit me. What people would you even want to see?" "I've had coffee with Linda from accounting a few times. She's going through a divorce. Very attractive, very interested in exploring new relationship dynamics." Emma's face went pale. Linda was younger, prettier, and had been openly flirtatious with me at company events. "You've been having coffee with Linda." "Just coffee. But under our new agreement, I could explore that connection more fully." "When?" "Same times you see Jake." "Wednesday afternoons work well for me too." "You can't be serious." "Why not? You said this arrangement would let us both be honest about our needs. My need is for passionate connection with someone who desires me completely. Linda provides that." I was lying. I'd had exactly 2 brief conversations with Linda, both strictly professional, but Emma didn't know that. "This isn't what I wanted," she said quietly, "but it's what you asked for. Equal relationship autonomy, no possessiveness or controlling behavior. Freedom to explore connections outside our marriage. I meant for me. I know you did, but that's not how marriage works. We're either equal partners or we're not. Emma stared at me, clearly realizing that her perfect arrangement had a major flaw. She wanted the freedom to cheat while keeping me as her stable, monogamous backup plan. What if we modified the agreement, she suggested, to exclude me from the same freedoms you're claiming? That seems unfair. To be more realistic about our different needs. My needs seem pretty similar to yours, actually. Passion, authenticity, freedom from constraint. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. I need to think about this. Take your time, but remember you set the deadline, 1 month before your trip with Jake. After she left, I called in sick to work and spent the day making some calls of my own. First, I contacted a divorce attorney to understand my options and rights. Second, I called a private investigator to document Emma's affair properly. Third, I reached out to Linda from accounting, not to proposition her, but to ask if she'd be willing to have a friendly lunch if needed. She was intrigued and agreed. I wasn't planning to have an affair, but I was planning to call Emma's bluff. That evening, Emma came home subdued and anxious. I talked to Jake about the agreement, she said. Oh, what did he think? He's not comfortable with you seeing other people while I'm seeing him. That's interesting. Why not? He thinks it complicates things unnecessarily. I see. So Jake gets a say in our marriage terms now? That's not what I meant. It sounds like Jake wants the benefits of being with a married woman without the complications of her husband having the same freedoms. Emma sat down across from me. Can we just talk about this reasonably? I thought we were. I mean, can we find a compromise that works for everyone? What kind of compromise? Maybe. Maybe I was being too aggressive with the relationship autonomy clause. Maybe we should just focus on restructuring our own relationship first. I leaned back in my chair. You mean you want to keep sleeping with Jake, but not give me the same option? I mean, maybe we should work on us before involving other people. Emma, you've been involved with other people for 2 months. That ship has sailed. But we could end that and focus on rebuilding what we have. Under what terms? We could try counseling together, work on communication, find a middle ground. It was fascinating to watch her backtrack now that her perfect plan was falling apart. What about Jake? I could reduce the time I spend with him, maybe phase it out gradually. While I give up my relationship autonomy entirely, while we both focus on our marriage, the marriage you called patriarchal and stifling? She was quiet for a moment. Maybe I was too hasty in some of my assessments. Or maybe you were too hasty in crafting an agreement that gave me the same rights you wanted. Over the next week, Emma's confidence crumbled as she realized the implications of her own contract. She'd created a legal framework for an open marriage, assuming I'd never want to use it. When I mentioned having lunch with Linda, Emma became jealous and possessive in ways she'd criticized me for never even being. When I started staying out later, exploring my authentic self, she questioned where I was and who I was with. When I suggested we should both have separate bedrooms to maintain our individual autonomy, she broke down crying. This isn't what I wanted, she sobbed one night. I just wanted to feel desired and appreciated. By someone other than your husband. By someone who saw me as more than just a comfortable routine. And now I want the same thing. What's the problem? The problem is I love you. I don't want you with other women. But you want to be with other men. That's different. How? Because Jake is just physical. You're my husband. You're my life partner. So I get the responsibility while Jake gets the passion? It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You want a stable provider and an exciting lover. 2 different men for 2 different needs. She didn't deny it because she couldn't. That was exactly what she wanted. What do you want from me? She finally asked. I want my wife back. The woman who saw me as her partner, not her financial support system with occasional benefits. I'm still that woman. No, you're not. That woman wouldn't have spent 2 months fucking another man while telling me she needed space to find herself. I made a mistake. You made a choice, multiple choices over multiple months. This isn't a mistake, Emma. This is who you decided to become. 2 weeks before her planned trip with Jake, Emma approached me with a new proposal. I want to tear up the agreement, she said. All of it. Go back to how we were. Which part of how we were? The part where you were secretly unsatisfied, or the part where I was unknowingly married to someone planning to cheat? The part where we were committed to each other exclusively. Are you breaking up with Jake? I already did. And you're giving up your relationship autonomy? I'm giving up the idea that I need someone else to feel fulfilled. What changed your mind? She was quiet for a long moment. Seeing how easily you could replace me made me realize how easily I could lose you. It was honest, but it wasn't enough. Emma, the problem isn't that you were tempted by someone else. The problem is that you justified destroying our marriage rather than talking to me about whatever you were feeling. I know. You spent months building a case for why I was inadequate, why our relationship was stifling, why you deserved something I couldn't provide. Then when you found it, you created an elaborate legal framework to have both without consequences. I was wrong. And now that your plan backfired, you want to go back to the way things were. But we can't, because I now know what you really think of me in our marriage. Tears started flowing again. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if you can. That night, I moved my belongings to the guest room permanently. Not as a temporary cooling off period, but as a recognition that our marriage as we'd known it was over. Emma tried everything over the next week. She suggested counseling, renewed wedding vows, even a vacation to reconnect. But every suggestion felt like another manipulation, another attempt to manage the situation, rather than genuinely address what she'd done. The final conversation happened on a Sunday morning. Emma knocked on the guest room door and asked if we could talk. I've been thinking about everything you said, she began, about choices and consequences and what I've become. And you're right. I didn't make a mistake. I made deliberate choices to prioritize my immediate desires over our marriage. I justified it with empowerment rhetoric, but the truth is, I was just selfish. It was the first completely honest thing she'd said in months. What do you want me to do with that information? I want you to know that I understand what I destroyed. I want you to know that losing you has taught me more about what I actually valued than any amount of self-discovery with Jake ever could. But it's too late. Is it? I looked at my wife, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She looked smaller somehow, less confident. The empowered woman who'd handed me that contract had been replaced by someone who seemed genuinely remorseful. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't know if I can trust you again. I don't know if I can forget the things you said about me in our marriage. I don't know if I can get past the image of you with him. I understand. And I don't know if I want to. Maybe this was a blessing in disguise. Maybe we both needed to see what we were really made of. She nodded, tears flowing freely now. I'm going to file for divorce, I said gently. Not out of anger or revenge, but because I can't live in a marriage where I'm constantly wondering what you really think of me or whether you're telling me the truth. I know, she whispered. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. We split our assets evenly, sold the house, and went our separate ways. Emma moved across town and, from what I heard through mutual friends, threw herself into therapy and personal growth work. Real personal growth this time, not the kind that justified hurting other people. I moved to a smaller place closer to work and started dating Linda for real. She turned out to be exactly what I'd claimed to Emma, passionate, authentic, and genuinely interested in building something meaningful, rather than just managing an existing relationship. 6 months after the divorce was final, Emma sent me a letter, not asking for reconciliation, but thanking me for refusing to accept her terms. She wrote that forcing her to live with the consequences of her choices had taught her more about herself than any empowerment group ever could. She also wrote that she finally understood what she'd lost and hoped I'd found someone who valued what she'd taken for granted. I wrote back once, briefly, wishing her well and hoping she'd learn to build relationships based on honesty rather than manipulation. That was 2 years ago. I married Linda last month. Our relationship isn't perfect, but it's built on mutual respect, genuine communication, and the understanding that commitment means choosing each other every day, not just when it's convenient. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd accepted Emma's original agreement. If I'd let her have her affair while remaining her stable backup plan. But I know the answer. I'd have lost myself completely while enabling her to avoid any real growth or consequence. The contract she handed me that day was designed to trap me in a relationship where my needs didn't matter. By turning it around and insisting on true equality, I forced her to confront what she was really asking for. She wanted the benefits of marriage without the constraints of commitment. When faced with the reality that I could want the same thing, she realized that wasn't actually what she valued. But by then, the damage was done. Not just the cheating, but the months of deception, manipulation, and disrespect that led up to that contract. Some betrayals are too complete to forgive. Some lies cut too deep to heal. Some choices reveal character in ways that can't be undone. Emma's bedroom rules weren't really about sex or empowerment. They were about power and control, about having everything she wanted without giving up anything she valued. When I refused to play that game, when I insisted on actual equality rather than just the appearance of it, the whole house of cards collapsed. And sometimes that's exactly what needs to happen. If this story resonated with you, follow for more honest tales about relationships, respect, and the boundaries that save us from toxic situations. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's worst instincts